Do you run 5-day challenges as part of your launch strategy? Or would you like to try out running a 5-day challenge in the next couple of months? If so, this is going to be a very helpful episode of the Heart Centered Business Podcast because I've got some hot tips for running 5-day challenges. This is episode number 452, which means you can find all the relevant links and the show notes for today's episode over at tashcorbin.com/452. Let's dive on in. Hello, I'm Tash Corbin, a business strategist and mentor based on the Sunshine Coast in Australia. The mission of this podcast is to help heart-centered entrepreneurs to make more money and in doing so, change the world for the better. This podcast was recorded on the lands of the Gubbi Gubbi and Jinnaburra people. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. So I'm going to get straight to the point with this episode. I've got 5 hot tips for running 5-day challenges. Plus, I want to walk you through the phases of a 5-day challenge. And the one thing that I do that I think results in far more conversion and far more effectiveness for my 5-day challenges as well. So tip number 1 is your 5-day challenge should really be focused on one outcome. I see a lot of people try and jam far too much into their 5-day challenges. They think they need to have an outcome every single day. So they've got 5 outcomes that people can achieve. But what that means is, number 1, people will pick and choose which days they engage with based on the outcomes that they want to actually achieve themselves. But also, number 2, it can mean that your 5-day challenge is overwhelming and it actually goes too far and too deep too quickly. And you don't actually have the capacity to guide people through that process effectively because there's too much to go through. There's too much for you to cover off. Instead, I would focus on one core outcome that you help people to achieve and break that up into the 5 steps that you cover off over the 5 days together. If that means your training each day is shorter and sharper, that's going to be a win. It also is going to maximize people's completion rate of that challenge because they don't actually achieve the outcome unless they do all 5 days. And that's what we want to help people to work through. Number 2 is keep your challenge simple and effective. If you say it's going to help people achieve X outcome, you better be sure that you actually do. So that's why I want you to focus on that one outcome and really master effectively taking people through that process to achieve it. Make sure that you have the simplest process possible and the one that's most likely to have the most people in the challenge actually achieve the goal. That's what we want to do. We want to deliver on that promise. We don't want to have lots of people flailing about and feeling helpless at the end of the challenge because they couldn't keep up or they didn't understand something or it was just too complex and involved for them. Keep it as simple and effective as possible. Tip number 3 is make it so that people can achieve the outcomes by completing under 30 minutes a day. So if each day there's a video training for people to watch and as they watch it, they're taking an action or they're documenting something or they're working on something, then keep that video under 30 minutes as best you can. Even better, have 15 to 20 minutes of instructions and 15 to 20 minutes of actual implementation, and that's it. So you're really nailing people achieving that outcome and getting their homework done in a short amount of time. Tip number 4 is to use the learn, do, share model. So this model is a very simplified adult learning model and it's very effective at maximizing people's completion of a 5-day challenge in particular. So on each day, there's something for people to learn, something for them to do, and something for them to share. The share component of a 5-day challenge is one of the most critical ones because it's in sharing and that feedback loop that they're creating connection back to you, but also they're maximizing completion because of that sense of accountability and wanting to participate in that group process. So if you can break your 5-day challenge down so that each day there's just one thing to learn, one thing to do, and one thing to share, that will be that simple and effective process that maximizes completion. And tip number 5 is be present with your challengers. A 5-day challenge has a job to do. That job is to convert the right people who are ready, willing, and able into purchasing the upsell. In most cases, that upsell is an online course or program, or it's a membership, or it might be a VIP offer. And so in order to maximize conversion, you want to maximize your connection. Connection drives conversion. So if you create your 5-day challenge, but it's just emails and you're not present and there's no reply or feedback loop, you don't have the share component, or you're not present with that share component of the 5-day challenge, then chances are you're not going to maximize your conversion rate. Be present. Answer questions. Invite people to ask questions. Give feedback. It's the engagement with you that is going to maximize your conversion into the next offer. Now, there's one last tip that I want to share with you, a little bonus extra tip that I think is my secret sauce to ensure that my 5-day challenges really do their job of attracting and converting people into my offer. But it requires that I actually walk you through the entire process, the 4 phases of a 5-day challenge, in order for it to really land. So, the 4 core phases of a 5-day challenge are design. So, designing the 5-day challenge. What are the 5 days going to cover? What's the learn, do, share for each of the days? Who is it specifically for? What are you upselling them into, right? So you've got that clarity around the design. So that's phase number 1. Phase number 2 is promote. Promote your 5-day challenge far and wide so that you maximize the sign-ups into that challenge. Promote it to your existing audience, promote it to your warm audience, and then promote it out to a cold audience. And really maximize the number of people who are enrolled and registered to do the challenge. Phase number 3 is deliver the challenge. That's your 5 days. So that's where you're delivering the training, you're giving people feedback, you're answering questions, you're engaged, you're really present with your audience. And phase 4 is the upsell. So on days 4 and 5, generally in a challenge, I start talking about the upsell. Then I'm talking about the upsell in the subsequent week or 2 after the challenge. Plus, I have a follow-up email sequence that does a lot of that pitching for me and invites those people who are a good fit for the upsell to connect with me and have a conversation about it, and invites them to go and check out that offer. I do a 5-day challenge that upsells into the takeoff program. And so I've got emails that pitch the takeoff program, answer frequently asked questions about the program, get people over to the sales page, but also getting them emailing me to ask me questions about the takeoff program and let me know if that's something that they think might be a good fit for them as well. So phase number 4 is the upsell. My super secret, but not so secret, magic sauce for making my 5-day challenges convert so well is that I pre-write stage 4, the upsell. Now, this might feel like it might be something that you don't really want to do in the early stages. When you're designing your 5-day challenge and you're out there promoting it, you just want to stay focused on promoting this free thing. It's very exciting. It's very cool. It's very fun. And it's a freebie. So why wouldn't you want to shout about it from the rooftops? But I find that if I haven't pre-written my upsell, if I haven't pre-written the emails that follow up the 5-day challenge, if I haven't pre-written my promo posts that upsell after my 5-day challenge, when I'm running the challenge itself, I'm so present with the challenge that it's difficult for me to get into that upsell writing headspace. And in the early stages of running 5-day challenges, About day 4 or 5 of the challenge was when I started to get wobbly about my upsell. I'd start to worry, have I done enough? Have people got enough value out of this? Have I given enough? Maybe I should give more free stuff. Maybe I should do this. Maybe I should do that. And so then I started extending my 5-day challenges by running bonus masterclasses and extra live calls and doing all these extra follow-ups. But all I was doing was delaying the upsell because of my mindset wobbles. So the more that I pre-write the upsell component of my 5-day challenge, the less likely I am to have a fizzle at the end, and the less likely I am to delay that upsell process as well. I don't just design the challenge in the design phase, I design the entire launch process, the entire upsell part of that process as well. And that is my little secret sauce. Now, if you're listening to this and you think, oh, I really want to nail my launches, I really want to give this a go, I want to do some of that pre-writing, well, I have a fabulous free resource for you. It's my Launch Basics training. It walks you through the basics of a step-by-step launch, what emails to send, where the lead magnets go in a launch, all those different pieces and components. So you'll find the link to that over with the show notes of today's episode at tashcorbin.com/452. And there you have it, my 5 plus 1 little bonus tip for running 5-day challenges. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Heart Centered Business Podcast. And until next time, I cannot wait to see you shine.